Well, 49ers fans, that was a really rough one. I watched the game, as I'm sure a lot of you did, and we just are not looking great right now. I think when you look at the division, it's pretty tight, and it's certainly been a wild NFL season. I know in my early picks in the start of the season, I was getting so many of the games wrong because there were so many things that I didn't expect, like Jaden and the Commanders being so good. Baker Mayfield has looked good this year. I did kind of expect the Ravens to look really good with Derrick Henry, and they are looking fantastic. And obviously, Henry's added another component to their game that I think is going to make them a top tier team. But our team, boy, those injuries are piling up. I'm not a big fan of the play calling, and some of the things that are happening on the field are definitely not going our way like they were last year. I really felt like last year was the window. Like we really needed to win it last year because if we didn't, there wasn't that guarantee that we were going to be able to keep ourselves healthy. And but even then, I certainly didn't expect it to get to this degree with the injuries. McCaffrey at the start of the season seemed like he would be back in a few games, and now we're what is it, 7 games in or 6 games in, and we're just not where we need to be. A lot of the games have felt winnable, but there's been things go on in each game that we've, kind of let things go as the games progressed. The amount of red zone, field goals feels like about 2 or 3 years ago with Jimmy G, where we would get all this momentum marching down the field, and then it would just stall in the red zone, and we'd walk away with three. And at the end of the game, you add up that score, and deep down, if we had been able to capitalize on a couple of those opportunities, we would be able to do a lot better, and we would have been able to capitalize. And I think one of the challenges we've got is, that last game, and certainly Brock, I feel like Brock has played well. I've been quite impressed with some of his games, but that last game as a one-off definitely felt like the Jimmy G days. One of my challenges with Jimmy G and used to frustrate me a lot was once he tried to roll out of the pocket or tried to run, he wouldn't throw it away, and he would get tackled from behind, and that would lead to injuries, and he'd be limping back to the huddle and stuff like that. And obviously Brock's having to scramble more. Our O line is not rated terribly high, but it felt like last year we were getting better protection, and maybe that's just McCaffrey and how he was able to break down the other team's defense, so the O line didn't have to do as much. But right now I don't feel, and I'd be curious about your view of this in the comments, but I don't feel like we're doing anything well in any phases of any of the games. And even if we are able to do well in one phase of the game, say on offense or defense, we're not getting enough of that complementary football from the other side to hold on to the lead or to finally win those games. And with, I mean, certainly in the division, most of the teams, are kind of struggling around that 500 mark. But if we can't turn it around, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do to get into those playoffs. And with Ayuk's injury and him not being back at all this season, Juwan Jennings was out the last game, and hopefully he's back because he's been kind of one of the highlights I feel like of the season. And to a degree, and I was really pleased to see how impressive Jordan Mason was. We had kind of been able to keep up some of that momentum with our run game, but now that's starting to feel like it's stalling. And the Chiefs are a fairly highly rated offense, if not one of the the best, or sorry, defense, but one of the best defenses in the league. But we were also able to still run the ball against teams, and it feels like now if we can't run the ball, we're not able to protect Purdy enough to keep them off his back. So we're not getting those crossing plays that were opening Debo up. Obviously, Debo had to miss the game on the weekend because of that, lung thing he had going on, which could have potentially been pneumonia or whatever it was that was fluid in his lungs, where he had to check himself into the hospital. But it just, it feels like everything right now, and I think that's part of the challenge is how do we bring it all back together in a short period of time? Even after the bye week, if McCaffrey comes back, we're not going to have Ayuk, even though he didn't play particularly well, in the first games before his injury. So effectively, I think if we're going to pull this out, we're going to have to stay healthy. We're going to have to make some really good decisions, and we're going to have to really capitalize on that red zone offense. And I don't have a lot of confidence with that. And when it comes down to Kyle, what do you think? Is Kyle on the hot seat? Some of the play calling in the red zone I don't like. I think we need to run it more in the red zone. That interception in the red zone was just super rough, and those are killers. You cannot do those things and flip that score from a +7 us to effectively a -14 because they go down and they score on us. So now the point differential increases and stuff like that. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to be able to pull it out? Are we going to be able to turn it around? Are we going to be able to stay healthy? What changes do we need to make to do this? And if we don't make the playoffs, what needs to happen in the off season? And I'd be really interested in the 49ers fans and what they think. I listened to the Krug show and Grant Cohn and John Middlecoff as kind of the San Francisco media to kind of get a view of how they're viewing things. And I kind of agree that there is some hope, but it does not feel like it's as much in our control this year as it was last year. So sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think needs to change or whether or not we're going to make the playoffs. And hopefully, we can beat the Cowboys this weekend and take that bye week and get healthy and come back and put a bit of a rundown to try and, at least get into the playoffs.